Welcome to the Bend Don't Break podcast. We are powered by The Source, Bend's locally owned media company and weekly newspaper. This podcast is our eddy in the rushing waters of local journalism. We are glad that you're taking some of your time to listen to us chat with the people who shape our local community. Support us through our member program at bensource.com.
Thank you to our presenting sponsor, RE/MAX Key Properties, a family-owned full-service real estate brokerage specializing in residential, luxury, commercial, new construction, and ranch and land properties. Their new state-of-the-art facility at 42 Greenwood Avenue is a modern, collaborative space and the new home of the Bend Don't Break podcast recording studio.
I'm Aaron Switzer, publisher of The Source and producer with Megan Burton, off-screen, of this fine podcast, Bend Don't Break. Today we're doing a little navel-gazing segment. We're talking to Clayton Franke, who is now a reporter for the Lay It Out Foundation and writing for The Source, the Bend Source Weekly. His work regularly appears in The Source now, and previously he covered local government for The Bulletin, for a small newspaper on the Washington coast, and some other publications. Graduated from the University of Oregon with a degree in journalism in 2022. And when not reporting, he enjoys skiing, hiking, and live music. Clayton, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Aaron. Appreciate it.
So before we get into how awesome it is to have you as part of our team and being in the foundation now, and we'll talk a little about the foundation. You are originally from Missoula, Montana.
That's right.
Population
when
you were growing up.
When I was growing up, I think it was 60 or 70,000. I think it's grown a little bit larger in the last 10 or 15 years.
Is it 60, 70 when school's in session or out of session?
I think that's including college kids.
Yeah.
It feels the town is very similar to Bend.
Yeah.
I don't think it's grown quite as much as Bend has.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit more college town feeling than Bend, but it also has a river wave. It's got, mountain biking and skiing.
Yeah.
And fly fishing right next to, the city. So
we went up and looked at doing a Happy Girl run in Missoula. And so I scoped the town out and I dug it. I thought it was a really good size, and it's got a thriving university. So great youth culture there. A lot of that kind of college stuff that Bend wants to have but doesn't quite have yet, associated with OSU.
It's got a lot going for it.
Yeah.
Sure.
And you after what did you do in Missoula? Was that where you fell in love with hiking, biking?
That's where I kind of got into outdoor activities. Played a lot of baseball growing up there too, which was pretty fun. Played some other sports. And then in the summers and stuff would go outdoors with the family. Yeah, kind of got into fly fishing, all the stereotypical kind of like Montana kind of stuff. Things, that you think about when you think about Montana. But I mean, there's some other stuff going on there too. But went to college at U of O in Eugene, which was kind of like a fun change up too. So
did you know you wanted to go into journalism was that why you selected U of O?
It wasn't specifically. I was looking around at some different schools and didn't really have anything in mind for a major. I knew that journalism was kind of on my radar when I went into college, but I didn't know much about it at all. It was kind of just fortuitous that U of O happened to have a pretty good journalism program, right. And that's what I chose.
Was there a what was your first assignment when you were working for U of O? And maybe not first assignment, what was the assignment that was like, wow, this is cool?
Well, I started writing for the Daily Emerald sports desk, which was like I said, I played baseball in high school. That was something I was passionate about.
Were you competitive?
Yeah, like we didn't have high school baseball in Montana, but it was too small, so we just kind of combined the whole town into one American Legion baseball team is what it's called. So I wanted to kind of stay involved with that. I was playing on the club baseball team at University of Oregon. which is a little more laid back than the real team. But started writing for the sports desk, was covering anything from baseball to like the acrobatics and tumbling team, like tennis events. They had us doing all kinds of stuff, which is kind of fun. Like, I kind of like, even still, like I kind of like the activeness of sports writing. Like, I feel like that having a background in that kind of writing helps with news quite a bit, because you're able to, come up with these verbs and like descriptions of stuff. And
you're going to cool games, and I mean, I love that aspect of it. I mean, you get to follow sports, and I'm a huge sports fan. So, and you're more than just a amateur observer. You're
exactly
like into it and tracking numbers and who's good. And
that's why I wanted to write, because it was like you get rather than just going to the games, you get to be involved in something that you're passionate about. And covering, like, I remember on the sports desk, it was the football games specifically were like very coveted events. Like only people, like the upperclassmen got to cover football, because that was what everyone wanted to cover. And so kind of when I came in as like a freshman, I was covering all the stuff no one wanted.
Probably was bigger than news. I mean, covering the huge. Ducks was...
Well, every week they'd come out with a Oregon game day issue. Yeah. And we'd all write, like, I think I would write for that issue and write about football a little bit, but we had a team of like 5 or 6 people, and we'd all write stories and fill out this whole paper. It was just the sports, so it was pretty like fun thing. Everybody's like pretty tuned into that at U of O. So it was a good experience. But COVID hit my sophomore year of college. Okay. And I kind of transitioned a little bit away from sports writing. Much fun as that was, I was kind of like, I'm looking for something a little more like the human interest aspect.
Well, journalism. COVID sports got kind of weird.
That too, yeah.
Like I remember my son played for the ultimate frisbee team at OSU, and they were doing weird rules where they didn't have to get close to each other and they could still throw. And I was like, well, that's not the sport. I
can't remember if UO had any games that spring or not. I think everything just got canceled and but that summer 2020 fall, I guess, was the summer of the Labor Day fires in Oregon.
Oh yeah.
And the McKenzie River Valley by Eugene, couple towns got totally burned. I think that fire was like 140,000 acres or something like that.
Yeah, that was from Eugene to Bend. I mean, that was everybody was paying attention to that.
Yeah. And that fall, I started working for the student magazine. It's called Ethos Magazine.
Okay.
Over there, and it's all independent, like student run. One of my first stories there was covering the story of someone trying to rebuild after the Holiday Farm fire in Blue River, Oregon, which is like 40 miles east of Eugene, I think.
Okay.
And that was pretty eye-opening. Like we went out into the field. I remember like not knowing at all how to get in touch with, some of these fire victims. Like this was like the first story of this type that I had ever done. And we just went out, drove out, saw people picking around in the rubble, and pulled off to the side of the road and talked to them about their stories. And that was kind of eye-opening. Like there's this whole other side to journalism that I wasn't really on my radar before this, and it's seems like pretty interesting, like rewarding work. So
I remember when I first did those types of stories. I mean, the thing that strikes you is one, access. Like you're right in these people's lives, and because you're a journalist, they're going to talk to you. Of course, you'll always have the people who are a little standoffish, but in many cases, they become an open book, and you're like, I remember initially, because I used to report for the Boise Weekly, was where I got my start. I was blown away, when you're first doing your stories, and there's somebody like a fire victim, or in the case that I had, it was a car accident, and we were talking about the impact of that, and you're just blown away that you are the vessel by which
Right.
these people are going to talk and get this stuff out. And it's a huge responsibility. Like when you're young, I mean, I remember being like, man, what am I going to do with this? Like, I gotta get real,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. It kind of makes you mature a little bit almost.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. Like we're talking about real, impactful stuff. So
Yeah, we're not talking about hitting a home run.
right. Exactly.
You know, these
exactly.
people lost their homes. And so then from the magazine, where did that lead you?
That led me, I wrote a few stories for the magazine, and I actually started working for Eugene Weekly over there.
Yeah.
They have a pretty solid, reputation for helping student journalists kind of get their start. And a lot of sort of my cohort was working for Eugene Weekly, writing stories as interns.
Yeah.
And I think we'd write, like a story every couple weeks, or that's how it was for me. It wasn't a lot, but it was a way that was like my first foot in the door in like professional publication, which was definitely super valuable. And they do a good job like training you to be
front lines.
Yeah, exactly.
Thrown on the front line.
And I think, let me think about what are some of the stories there. I remember covering, I was interested in kind of environmental stuff after doing the wildfire reporting. I remember covering some salmon and dams issues, Columbia Basin stuff. I remember writing like sort of a first person story about bull trout fishing on the Metolius River, which was pretty fun to kind of explore that aspect. And then writing a little bit about the city. They have had kind of a fiasco with their city hall at one point.
Yeah.
Trying to find where's their city hall going to be. And I wrote about that and some other plans for like a new farmers market pavilion in Eugene, which is super nice building they just built. So,
and when you're moving from, I don't know what the circulation of the Emerald is, but I'm assuming that the Eugene Weekly was much larger, citywide, bigger reach. That also starts to impact you, where you start realizing like, hey, I'm, these pieces I'm writing, these words I'm putting down are starting to get to a much broader audience. And it expands again the responsibility you got when you're covering that stuff.
Definitely, yeah. I think that was definitely an important step. And you're still in college, like, but you're getting all this, all this experience. So helps a lot.
So out of the university, so you graduate, and now you're thrown into the the 2023. You graduated
2022. Yep.
And I mean, we're still a little bit in the pandemic, and you're looking for work as a journalist out there. What was that like?
Well, right after college, I did an internship through the U of O, where you sort of just apply for this program and they place you at a newspaper in Oregon. And I got sent out to Baker City, town of like 10,000. Had no clue what Baker City was. But I ended up actually kind of liking it. It was only for 3 months, so
you're a Missoula kid, so
exactly.
It wasn't like they took somebody from the valley and took them out there. So.
I think people, I remember talking to some friends who got sent to Vail, and they were the closest people, to Baker City. So I think we met up for a camping trip or something, and they were like, they were having a tough time in Vail, even though the paper there was pretty strong.
Yeah, there was I'm drawing a blank on the person's name, but they were. It was a good paper.
Yeah.
I don't think it's still there.
No, I think, Mallier Enterprise, they closed, but that was definitely a good experience. Got to just kind of have fun and write about a bunch of different stuff, even in like, I remember writing about it was right after they overturned Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. Yeah. And there was a protest in Baker City. Right. So I was kind of covering that. It was kind of funny. But I had a good time there, just getting started at like this tiny little paper and getting to write kind of.
How many other writers were there when you were there?
I think they had 2 other reporters. Maybe one was part-time or something like that, but pretty small shop.
When you get into one of those type of newspapers and those communities, you're doing a lot of heavy lifting. I mean, I'm sure you're working on your speed.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think I had maybe quite as many assignments as the other reporters there, but I think part of the purpose of that internship is like they just throw you into the fire, and you kind of have to learn how to be a reporter,
right.
and what the day-to-day is like, going from writing a story once every couple weeks at
right.
the Eugene Weekly to like, okay, I'm doing this all day, every day now. And it's like,
were they daily?
They printed 3 times a week, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I remember like, not kind of sitting around waiting for an assignment from my editor, but of course, he's busy. He's off producing the paper and doing that. So it kind of forces you to like expand your comfort zone and learn how to find stories.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and from Baker, you're on to.
From there, I moved to Aberdeen, Washington, which is a tiny small town on the coast of Washington. The hometown of Kurt Cobain. Yeah.
That's what people know.
Yeah, definitely. So that was
interesting. Anytime I think Aberdeen, I think, it's gray.
It's pretty gray. It's pretty gray. Yeah. It was long winter there for sure.
Yeah.
Quite different from Bend. But all types of stuff going on there. You got like the Olympic Peninsula.
And you weren't interning at that point. You were.
No, that was my first.
That was your gig.
Full-time gig.
Yep.
Just as a GA reporter, general assignment. That was just one of the things that popped up when I was.
It's a pretty rough town. I mean, where
definitely
you had a lot to write about.
Yeah, it was at one point the logging capital of the world.
Wow.
I think at one point they were like exporting more logs out of the port than any other place. But like logging industry went downhill, and they haven't really had any revitalization there. So they're kind of struggling a little bit economically. And they had a homelessness problem,
drugs.
Yeah, that type of thing is definitely prevalent there. So there was a lot to cover at the newspaper, but it was an interesting place to be a reporter.
Yeah, I just went through Aberdeen this past summer on my way up to the Olympics. So, and we got out and kicked it there because I was like, we're in Aberdeen, it's a thing, I don't, and I wanted to get a sense of the town, and it looks much the same as it probably looked 50 years ago.
But it seems like there's pretty big potential. Like in my opinion, I always thought like, man, there's all this waterfront area and really good recreation, like Olympic National Park's right there, the coast is right there. So I know that they're building a new downtown museum dedicated to Kurt Cobain and Nirvana. So that was like kind of this big swell of excitement when I lived there.
Right.
So I'm not sure. I think it's probably open now. So it'd be interesting to go back and check that out and see.
Yeah. And then from how long were you there?
I was there about a year and a half.
Okay. And then next assignment was?
Then I came to Bend.
Okay.
Took a job with the Bulletin.
What brought you to Bend? I mean, was it the job?
Yeah, it was mostly the job, and I sort of had a community here from U of O, people who had moved here after college. So, and I knew it'd be a pretty good fit. I'd come down and visited before. So,
what did you find when you first started reporting about Bend? I mean, what were you struck by with regard to the town?
I think
because you're not a
good question.
You've been here that long.
I don't know. I mean, I think I was focused on local government specifically, and like housing development and transportation was kind of my
the two biggies
focus area.
Yeah.
And so
aside from homelessness,
I guess, like the more that you learn about kind of the nitty gritty, like city planning process, the more that you can kind of understand why things look the way they do, I guess.
Absolutely.
Which was pretty cool because I had never, I think when I took that job, I hadn't really I'd done some government reporting, but definitely not a lot. So it was new concepts coming into it.
Yeah.
And I've definitely become much more interested in urban planning and kind of like street layouts and zoning and that type of thing since then. So,
well, here, I imagine here, well, I don't have to imagine, we see it every day, even as we're walking to this podcast, that, Bend's in a dynamic period with regard to its planning and its transportation and housing and all these things. I got to think you're coming from Aberdeen to the Bulletin. It changed gears pretty quick.
Yeah. I remember, I remember walking around town, going to a city council meeting kind of my first couple weeks, and just thinking like, everybody in Bend looks very happy and healthy, and everyone's really fit. And it was like, I was kind of just like, entering like the Bend bubble, I guess. And it took a little bit of getting used to. At first I was a little caught off guard, and I was thinking like, I don't know about this place. It seems a little too it's too nice.
Too
here.
pumped up.
Yeah, exactly.
Too amped.
Yeah. It's got kind of the shine, like the shininess a little bit.
Yeah. I don't want to keep bashing on Aberdeen, but you're, and for any Aberdeen listeners out there, it's nothing personal, but you're making a leap from a community that's in decline where, nobody's moving there because they want to be the next great mountain biker.
Right.
And they are here. For however delusional they are, they, are coming here because they imagine they're going to work 12 hours a week and mountain bike 20. And some of that rubs off, you do have some of that excitement, and, and everything's moving. You're still building things. You got tons of stuff to comment on.
Yeah. Yeah. There is kind of that buzz, sort of the buzz of like, activity and development and sort of the future in Bend that's sort of palpable almost.
Also given where you came from, aside from Eugene, you're coming into a community that's got a pretty progressive, at this time at least, city council. So you also must have had a little bit of a shock in terms of, I don't know what Aberdeen's city council and politics are like, but it can't have been like Ben's.
No, yeah, it was.
We're talking about electrification and house hardening and things that are pretty cutting edge for the state.
Yeah, no, there's nothing of that sort in Aberdeen, but it was kind of a mix, kind of interesting politically. Yeah. Washington is obviously really blue state, but I think the Aberdeen City Council was almost half and half, but leaning more conservative and old logging town, carrying that forward.
That's good, because when I'm imagining it, that's exactly what I think.
Yeah, it was a little bit of that was part of a shift to come into Bend. It was like, okay, this is more a progressive city, but
right. Do you given your beat, maybe this is showing my bias, like, how do you make it so it's not boring? Like, you're talking about transportation. You're talking about urban planning. And I remember when we used to have this moratorium on sewer stories at the source. Like, they'd come up. There were all this controversy around related sewer. I was like, no, like, you write a couple lines, sewer problem. We're just not going there. And it wasn't the nature of our paper at the time, but there's part of me that's still like, you got to make it interesting.
Yeah.
And how do you do that?
I think I've written a couple of sewer stories since I've been here.
Well, you won't write another one.
I'll be chopping at the bit for sewer stories. Right. I think, one way to make it more interesting is money. Like, I think everyone's interested in how much is this going to cost me? Most people are anyway. And trying to connect that back to, like, individual people. How are we all either sharing the cost, or who's paying for, something as basic as, the ability to flush your toilet,
right?
Is something that, you don't think about that often. But if you can put that in like the most basic terms possible, like, this is who's fronting the costs, or if you can talk about like some individual person's story, that always makes it more interesting. But it's like something I work on a lot, is like, okay, how do I make this road story relevant, you know?
Absolutely. And I think that's a challenge. And obviously I've read your writing and your previous writing, and you do a great job of it. You know, you keep it so that individuals can relate to it.
Thanks.
Although nonetheless, we're not writing any more sewer stories.
Yeah, I think like no matter what the urban development beat, there's going to be some more boring stories.
Yeah.
Not to say that they're not important though, and like not that we shouldn't be doing them, but
so I'm also curious, like in your in the current journalism environment, especially at our paper, where you've got small stories, medium stories, feature stories, they're all being thrown at you. You're bopping from here. You're not on a beat. You now get to pick what you want to report on for the most part. And while that I know that's exciting, how do you keep from becoming schizophrenic in the process?
Yeah, no, it's tough. I mean, I think I'm still sort of focusing on that local government, angle, but maybe, a little bit more room to kind of explore some other stuff that I'm interested in. Like I kind of tend to think if I'm, interested in a story and sort of engaging with it, that other people, readers are going to be hopefully, seeing that perspective as well. And so,
I think it's fair. I think it's fair to say in our the way our newsroom is set up, we're open to and flexible. It's not top down.
Yeah.
We're very much appreciative and tuned into reporter input. Where you had mentioned, I think at one point wanting to do more environmental writing, and that's great.
Yeah. I think I'm just hoping to kind of follow my interests wherever they might take me next, and if I can, maybe go down a rabbit hole, maybe hopefully not too deep, but just kind of follow threads here and there and see where it takes me.
Yeah. When you, you're young and you look at the journalistic landscape. What are your thoughts looking from the inside out on where journalism's headed?
Yeah, it's definitely a little depressing getting into it at this moment in time, for sure. I think the one sort of inspiring thing is I think people always value journalism, and I think there is sort of a collective mindset of we want to preserve journalism. Is there a way to kind of bolster it, whether it's like through some sort of government action or other models that we're coming up with? I think there's that like collective motivation to preserve it, but we're still trying to figure out like what's the best way to do that. But I've definitely heard a lot in the last, I've been, I guess, a journalist for a couple of years now, and I've been in several, wide open, empty offices with a ton of computers and desks and not a lot of people. In Aberdeen, we had this huge press room in the back, and all the old equipment was back there, and go back there from time to time and check it out. And it was like, kind of a throwback, but
well, you can visit the old the bulletin board.
Yeah.
You go up to the title company and you walk through that big arch, and you're like, all of this space.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. I've heard quite a few stories about like what it was like back in the day with dozens of reporters and editors and photographers and everything like that. And it's kind of like it's obvious like the golden days of newspapers are behind us. So but there's a glimmer of hope sort of for what's next.
I think that a lot of what you the way you look at journalism today depends on perspective. Certainly in your case, you're looking back and hearing stories of a golden age, but it was fraught with peril at the time as well. And certainly a lot of you can watch The Wire if you want to see, a great show on what the potential was for that environment. But, for our paper, we've never been bigger. I mean, being able to use different models and find the best of those models and pull those models together have allowed us to continue to expand and grow the kind of journalism that we do, which is, I think, it's just a little more, like I was saying, it's more based on the journalists who are working there and what they find exciting, which I think is a much better way than kind of top-down editors who are sending you out on something that might be, worthless, and you're coming back and you've got to put it in the print anyways, because, man, that's what's got to happen today. And digital's a little more flexible in that there's no prescribed whole. You definitely want content up there, but there's not that excruciating pressure to fill like a column and a half today by 1:30. There's just, hey, we need this story. Is it big? Is it small? What does it warrant? We're not pressing on that. But I remain really optimistic because what I have seen through all these changes, and I've been doing this since we were doing Paste Up, so is content will out. Like people, I shouldn't say content. People care about their community and they want information on the community. And what is the best way to get them that information? In my opinion, you hire smart people who have gone to college for this. You get an editor who knows how to filter this stuff. You put them in a room together and you get really great content, as opposed to what is being served up in most of the digital environment. And I have faith. Megan's heard me talk way too much about how much I hate social media. I'm going to just talk about it again. There's a little bit of reckoning now on social media. And I loved seeing those images of Mark Zuckerberg walking down those stairs, being held a little bit liable for the sewer that has been flowing. And, I've always said we could never do that. We publish a letter that's a bunch of bullshit and we're going to get sued, you know? And here's this whole media outlet's like a telecommunications company, and they're absolved from that. So you can say anything you want. And it hamstrung all of the media outlets because of course we can't do that. Do we want to be salacious and get clicks and say whatever the hell we want? I mean, I don't want to, but God knows you can make a ton of money doing it. And I kind of it just goes back to what I think is perspective is. You see some of that kind of stuff and it gives you a little hope. Like, maybe there is going to be an assessment of value. And I think it's the reason that there's a lot of opportunity for someone like yourself, who is skilled, who is working with a team of other people that are skilled. And it's, the motivation for us to bring someone like you on board is like, yeah, we want more scrutiny on City Hall, and we don't want anybody running in there. We want somebody who's got some experience and knows these people, isn't gonna put them on a pedestal, but again, isn't interested in just like throwing, cat poo up there either. So
yeah. I mean, I think you're right. There always will be, a sort of appetite for local news, local information. Yeah. I mean, I think. Even in Bend, like you see social media pages on Facebook or Reddit or whatever it is, like sort of these stories, not from like a newspaper, stories sort of spiraling out of control. Yep. And it seems like that's sort of a product of, a shrinking newspaper, and I guess just less sources of viable information, in the community. But yeah,
I think in some cases in those situations also no desire to even go put in the work and effort to go find those sources. I mean, the reality is that it's a ton of work to make sure that what you are writing is actually accurate and factual and is not going to end you up in a court of law where these other people who are putting out whatever, I mean, they skirt a lot of that stuff, but sometimes they just flat out, they'll just throw it out there. Hey, what do you think?
Right.
It's like, well, I didn't need you to prompt the conversation. I needed to know what was true. And so, yeah, I think that's another piece of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sort of optimistic, but yeah, I know there was a bill in the Oregon legislature past couple of years to fund newspapers through charging Google for
Yes. Yeah, I
you know,
tracked it quite closely.
yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I'm sure it'll be coming back into the legislature
Yeah.
in the next couple of years, so we'll see where that goes. But
There was a lot of lobbying for and against that. I'm not sure. I mean, personally, I don't trust that, although we were, there was a lot of hope that those funds were going to come to small publishers like ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
However, the more you got into it, the more the language around that was like, well, okay, a lot of the publishing houses like the Bulletin or like Gannett in Eugene, they don't need those funds. They're incredibly large, but you're going to give government funds to those companies where those monies are immediately going to go out of market. And if you're not, how do you get into the minutia of who gets those funds? And what the format is, and there's a lot. That's a tar baby.
Yeah,
how
it's complicated.
How are you going to get in there and finesse that? And I think in that first run they got pretty close, and maybe that's why it didn't go. But also, people just need to be aware when those bills go up. I mean, there's a lot of lobbying. A lot of those tech companies are like, no.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They don't want a straw put in their proceeds, and some of them have been very good. Like, I got to say, we've received grants from Google, and Google has, I think, been legit in helping newspapers develop digital strategies they couldn't otherwise perform. So it's fascinating. I find it fascinating.
Definitely.
It's like, it's another one of those things where you can be optimistic if you're just like not holding on to some golden age model. And
Yeah.
all weeklies came up in a model where we were just trying to tear that golden age down anyways.
Right.
So
True.
Well, Clayton, we're at the end of our time. Anything that I might not have touched on that you want readers or listeners to take away from this?
I don't think so, but excited to be working at the Source and looking forward to hearing from readers about story ideas.
Yeah, if you want Clayton to do a particular story on you, you can reach out to Clayton at layitoutfoundation.org. And yeah, great to have you on, and I'm really looking forward to our expanded newsroom. And we're going to be, for readers and viewers, we're going to be coming out with more information about how cool it is that we have grown the way we are and the abilities that we have now to do more reporting. It's super exciting. And thank you for listening to the Bend Don't Break podcast. If you like what you heard and you want more of it, go to bendsource.com, click on the donate button, and support us, because it allows us to do more of the fringe fun stuff like this, as opposed to the heavy lifting that Clayton's got.
Sewer stories.
Exactly. Help us not do sewer stories. Actually, you could donate and just put that on a line. I'll bring it to the editorial meeting. So, hey, thanks for being here. You've been listening to the Bend Don't Break podcast, powered by the Source Weekly. To read, hear, and see more of what we do, go to bendsource.com.